Now, there's still all to play for in the race for World Matchplay, as I previously mentioned. I think the top 13, they're not safe, but they're probably there. But as I said, Andrew Gilding on 36,000 pounds, Adrian Lewis on 34,750 pounds, and Ross Smith on 34,000 currently hold the last three spots. Ross Smith ahead of Ricky Evans on countback, but a plethora of players within a semifinal of that last spot, and a bunch of others who would only need a final to get into it. Of the players who are currently outside of the qualification spots, anyone that you fancy sneaking in?
Yeah, there definitely is. And as I mentioned in the last question, 12 grand for winning one of these Players' Championship events. So if you look down the list of players that currently aren't in those Pro Tour spots, you've got, I think, goes down to Ian White in 36th spot, 22 grand. He wins a title, he goes to 34 grand. So potentially could put himself in those spots on the first day. And that is a player that I was going to mention, actually, Ian White, because he did play well at the weekend in the Euro Tour, and it was good to see him back on stage playing well and getting a few wins under his belt. And we look at players that have had a long run of qualifying for the World Matchplay, at least an active run. We've got James Wade, Gary Anderson, Dave Chisnell. Ian White is next on that list. He's made it for the last 10 years along with Michael Van Gerwen, but he's going to need a good run. He's going to need an Ian White of old when he was winning these Pro Tour titles, not just on the floor, but the Euro Tour. But it was really the floor events we started to see him make his name and win those titles. And that is what got him to the number one seed for the Players' Championship finals a little while ago. So we know that he's more than capable of winning one of these titles, maybe even two in a weekend. So I'll put Ian White as one of my outsiders. And you heard from Mark Webster earlier. He mentioned a few names. I asked him this question as well. Who does he see maybe getting in these spots? And he gave me four names. He said Scott Williams, he thinks will definitely get in. He's currently outside. Roby John Rodriguez, he said he'd like to see him get in. Ricky Evans, he's the closest at the moment, just outside on countback from Ross Smith. Both of those on 34 grand. And the other one he mentioned as well was Simon Whitlock. And he's someone that we've, of course, just seen win that World Cup alongside Damon Heta, but we've not seen him play since then. We didn't see him on the Euro Tour at the weekend. So this will be the first time that we've seen him in a PDC competition. He's probably played in maybe 20, 30 local competitions since that World Cup, but this will be the first time we've seen him play in that PDC setting. And he's well in the mix, isn't he? I think he's less than 3 grand off those top 16 spots. So maybe he could be someone to keep an eye out for. But one name I'll give a mention to, and Mark Webster, he mentioned him as well. He's a little bit far off at the moment, but you look down the list, these are the Players' Championship averages for the year. And, okay, we're not going to mention Daryl Pilgrim because he is the stats killer. One game, 99.47 average. Put him out of the equation. The player with the highest average that currently isn't in the field is Josh Rock. And what a start he's had to the year. This is his first year, of course. He probably will be in the World Matchplay next year if he carries on the form that he's showing at the moment. But he's had 3 quarterfinals and a semi-final in the Players' Championship events, and the last 3 Players' Championships he's had a quarter-final, a semi-final and a last 32, and less than 10 grand off those spots. If he could have a good couple of runs this weekend, I think he is an outside shot as well. So I'll give a mention to those. They're going to be my maybe outsiders, Ian White and Josh Rock, to maybe get in those spots.
Well, I'll start where you finished off, because what you said there at the end was what I was going to mention, and that's Josh Rock. Well, I mean, we know how well he's been playing. I've mentioned it a few times. He's my tip for being not necessarily the next first-time winner, because anyone who hasn't won a title could be that, but at least a player who I think will win his first title this year. Granted, he's running low on opportunities, but still has a little less than half the season to go. But you mentioned those last 3 events, a quarterfinal, a semifinal, and a last 32. How much do you get for a quarterfinal? That's 3,000 pounds. How much do you get for a semifinal? That's 4,000 pounds. How much do you get for a last 32? That's 1,250 pounds. Take that money, add it to what he has right now. That's the difference. Granted, you'd expect at least one of Ross Smith or Ricky Evans to win one match over the next 3 events. So just duplicating what he did in the last 3 would probably not be enough to get him into the field, provisionally entering the final event, but it certainly would give him a chance. And there's no reason to think he can't go further. That semifinal becomes a final. That's another 4,000 pounds. Can he make a final over one of the next 3 events? Yes. Can he make multiple? Okay, we'll see. But he's definitely playing at a really high standard. You mentioned that fact that he's excluding Daryl Pilgrim 14th in averages this year, just a fraction behind Callan Ritz, who won 2 titles last year. He is really, really playing well. And yes, he's left himself a lot to do, but he already did a lot last time. And all he has to do is duplicate that to give himself more than a fighting chance of getting in. And remember, I said that's 3 events. There's still another one on top of that. So throw another semifinal. Maybe that'll get it over the line. But he absolutely can get in, even though he has a lot of work to do. I agree with Scott Williams. He's just been incredible this year. We'll put aside his dominance on the Challenge Tour. He's also won a Players' Championship event. He's been a force to be reckoned with pretty much every tournament that he's gotten into, and he's now only less than 3,000 pounds out of the field. I really think that he'll get in. I'm not saying Josh Rock will get in, but I do think Scott Williams will. I think Josh Rock has a good chance. And then someone else, Roby John Rodriguez and Keen Barry are right there. Keen Barry's only 1,250 pounds back. We've mentioned Roby John a lot. I think Roby John will get it done this time around. I think he's ready. I think Keen Barry's ready as well, but I just think Keen Barry's going to be a little bit outplayed by Roby and a little bit outplayed by Scott Williams, and that'll keep him out. Because I don't see all 3 of Gilding, Lewis, and Ross Smith going out. That said, if we were talking 2 months ago and this were where it's at, I would say Ross Smith had no chance to hold his spot. But he has improved. Yes, he's still in the middle of the field so far this year in terms of averages in the Players' Championship events, but he's added a good 2 points to his average over the last couple months after what was a dreadful start to the year. At one point in 8 Players' Championship events, he only won a total of 1 match, 7 first-round exits and 1 second-round exit, and he was playing significantly worse. Right now, that little under 92 for the year in the Players' Championships, but he's closer to a 94 since April. And that's a big difference. And because a 94 average is there or thereabouts for what you need to be a top 32 player. Ross Smith has a lot to do, and there are players definitely playing better than him, chasing him. But I think he's given himself a chance. Adrian Lewis left himself a lot to do by skipping the last trio of Players' Championship events. Andrew Gilding's been fantastic this year. It's why he made his first final in 7 years. It's why he has a chance to make the World Matchplay for the first time in 7 years. But I think 2 of those 3 will drop out. I'm saying Scott Williams will get in. I'm saying Roby John will get in. But it's a few players like Keen Barry, like Josh Rock, like even Mervyn King if he brings his game. Richie Edhouse as a long shot who's really quietly. Last year I said he was quietly having a very good year. He still is quietly a very good player. Never gets the respect he deserves, but he's right there in the race. There's players who can do it, but I think only 2 of them will. And I think Gilding will hold on to his spot. So I'm saying Adrian Lewis and Ross Smith are dropping out.